At precisely 2:14 a.m., the motion sensor in my living room went off. 2 minutes later, at 2:16, my 10-year-old son, half asleep but trained for this exact nightmare, slammed the panic button hidden under his bed, exactly like we'd rehearsed. By 2:19, police officers had Patricia Garrison in handcuffs, wrapped in my blackout curtains and shrieking about emergency code compliance inspections. She had crawled through the tiny, unlocked laundry room window. And the reason? She claimed dead serious that she had a hunch I was using unsanctioned LED bulbs. My name is David Mercer. I'm a widower, working IT support for a regional bank, and I'm not the type who hosts neighborhood cookouts or hangs around at mailboxes for weekend gossip. I don't mow my lawn every 3 days like the Maple Ridge HOA handbook passive-aggressively demands. My home is quiet, private, and simple. It's just me and my 10-year-old son, Jake. And apparently, that made us the prime target of Patricia Garrison, the self-appointed property aesthetics coordinator of Maple Ridge. To her, our porch light, mailbox, and even the fact that we minded our own business somehow threatened community values. It started with random notices shoved under my door at all hours. First was a warning about a non-compliant decorative gnome, which was actually a leftover Halloween skull I forgot to put away. Then came a $75 fine for unauthorized solar pathway lights that had been installed 5 years ago when I bought the house. But Patricia insisted they violated subsection 12.4 of a lighting ordinance she personally created last month. She rang my doorbell at 6:42 a.m. on a Saturday, lecturing me about what she called seasonally ambiguous wreaths. The wreath was a simple eucalyptus piece my late wife made. Another time she tried to march into my backyard, claiming she needed to measure the grass blades for compliance. When I asked her to leave, she puffed up like a peacock and promised she'd return with proper documentation. Neighbors reported seeing her crouched behind her hibiscus bushes, clutching a clipboard and binoculars, whispering frantically into a walkie-talkie she claimed was directly connected to code enforcement. Later, the actual code enforcement office confirmed they'd never heard of her, and certainly hadn't given her a radio. Then came the late-night incidents that made me realize this wasn't just petty HOA nonsense anymore. This was targeted harassment. Trash cans tipped over every Tuesday night, garbage scattered all over my driveway, my security camera cable sliced clean through, likely with garden shears. That was my breaking point. I upgraded everything. Silent alarms on every entry point, infrared cameras with cloud backup, and most importantly, panic buttons low enough for Jake to reach. I trained him. If anyone came in uninvited, hit the button, lock your door, hide in the closet. We practiced twice a week until it became instinct. Patricia escalated again after I refused to attend her mandatory neighborhood beautification seminar. She lurked around at strange hours, measuring my mailbox height at 11 p.m., taking photos of my garbage cans at dawn. One afternoon, she even followed Jake home from the bus stop, claiming she needed to inspect his backpack for contraband gum. That's when I filed my first police report. But officers said they couldn't do much unless she actually trespassed. Then came the night everything changed. I tucked Jake in at 9:30 p.m., double-checked every lock, and sat down to finish a few emails. Around midnight, I could hear Patricia through the wall, ranting on the phone about the criminal lack of HOA enforcement. I should have known she was preparing for something. By 2 a.m., I was completely asleep, unaware Patricia had decided. She couldn't rest until she confirmed what brand of laundry detergent I used. She actually told the police that later. Dressed head to toe in black, her standard inspection attire, she crept toward my house carrying a flashlight, a laminated rulebook, and a digital camera to document what she called inevitable violations. She tried the front door, then tested every window. The laundry room window, left unlocked after I aired out the room earlier that day, became her entry point. She wriggled through like a deranged raccoon, knocking over a bottle of fabric softener on the way. The motion sensor detected her instantly. My phone buzzed with the alert, but before I even processed the threat, Jake had already triggered the panic alarm. Ever since the backpack incident, he'd been on edge. The moment he heard that familiar soft beep of the sensor, the sound we'd trained for, He hit the button without hesitation. The silent alarm automatically notified the police with our home invasion code. I sprinted down the hallway toward Jake's room, heart smashing in my chest, praying he was safe and locked inside. Through the door, I spoke to Jake in the calmest voice I could manage. "You did everything right, buddy. Stay put. Okay?" He whispered back, trembling, "Okay, Dad." I pulled out my phone and opened the live security feed. There she was, Patricia Garrison, prowling through my living room with a flashlight like some deranged inspector, snapping photos of my coffee table magazines and muttering about unapproved reading materials. She drifted into the kitchen, opened my refrigerator, and began photographing the contents like a lunatic health inspector, making disgusted noises about my non-organic milk. Exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds after the silent alarm activated, the police arrived. I unlocked the front door just as they stormed in, weapons drawn, shouting for the intruder to reveal herself. Patricia froze, then panicked. She lunged behind my blackout curtains only to get hopelessly tangled in the fabric. Officers yanked her free while she screamed that this was an emergency code compliance inspection, and that she had full authority to be inside my house. She even waved her laminated HOA rulebook around like it was a federal warrant. Once officers realized this wasn't your run-of-the-mill burglar but rather an HOA board member gone completely rogue, they called for a supervisor and started taking statements. Patricia insisted she had implied consent to enter any home within the HOA for inspection purposes. The senior officer, hardly concealing his incredulity, told her that HOA bylaws don't override criminal law and that breaking into somebody's home is still a felony, no matter how many laminated sheets she prints. She became argumentative, adamant that she was protecting property values and enforcing community standards. The investigation, when the dust settled, it became clear this wasn't her first stunt. Patricia had pulled similar break-ins with 3 other families. The Johnsons reported strange footprints in their garden and missing porch photos. The twins down the block found their shed doors open several mornings in a row. Poor old Mr. Crawford actually caught Patricia inside his garage but brushed it off, thinking his medication was messing with him. No one had video proof until me. I had everything. Crystal clear, cloud-backed HD footage showing her creeping around my property, testing locks, crawling through the laundry room window, and photographing what she called evidence of non-compliance. My lawyer, whom I hired the next morning, said it was the most thorough documentation of a break-in he'd ever seen. He even laughed while watching the clip of her getting swallowed by my curtains. The media explosion, it didn't take long for the story to blow up. Within 48 hours, local news was airing my footage under the headline, "HOA President or Unhinged Trespasser?" The clip of Patricia screaming, "This is my jurisdiction," while wrapped in my blackout curtains went viral overnight. Someone turned it into a TikTok sound, over 3 million uses in the first week. Her mugshot, featuring her perfectly styled hair transformed into a frizzy bird's nest thanks to the curtain fight, became a meme template for entitled people facing consequences. The HOA board panicked. 2 days after her arrest, they held an emergency meeting. Over 200 residents showed up at the community hall, demanding Patricia's removal and the shredding of her 23-page self-written amendment to the neighborhood guidelines. The vote was unanimous, except for her husband, who abstained, staring at the floor. The very same night, the HOA was officially disbanded. Property values even rose afterward. Buyers seemed to love the NOHOA label. The trial, but Patricia's legal troubles were just getting underway. She faced charges for breaking and entering, criminal trespass, unlawful surveillance, endangering a minor. Since Jake was inside during her intrusion, her lawyer tried to plead diminished capacity, caused by an obsession with neighborhood order. The judge didn't buy a word of it. Between the footage, her history of break-ins, and her complete lack of remorse, the case was airtight. The trial lasted 3 days. Patricia took the stand and delivered a 40-minute rant, portraying herself as a heroic guardian, saving the neighborhood from chaos. She likened herself to a volunteer watchdog and accused everyone else of neglect. The prosecutor played the clip of her photographing my fridge at 2:15 a.m., then rested his case. Jake testified remotely. He was calm and brave and told them how he heard the motion sensor beep, hit the panic button like we practiced, then hid in his closet until I told him it was safe. A few jurors frowned as he explained how he'd had nightmares after Patricia followed him home from school. Sentencing, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. During sentencing, the judge brought up the trauma she'd caused, the fear she'd instilled in families, and her absolute refusal to take responsibility. He gave her 18 months in prison, 3 years probation, $15,000 restitution. When she heard the sentence, Patricia's jaw dropped. She turned to her attorney and whispered, loud enough for everyone, "This can't be happening. I have a neighborhood standards committee meeting next week." The judge wasn't amused. He added a permanent restraining order preventing her from coming within 500 feet of my home or Jake's school. Then came the final blow. She was banned for life from holding any position in any HOA, neighborhood association, or similar organization in the entire state. Patricia gasped, gripping the defense table, her face turning the same furious shade of red as the non-compliant roses she once fined the Johnsons for planting. In the end, Patricia's downfall became a turning point for our whole neighborhood. Her obsession with control, her late-night break-ins, and her delusional belief that she was above the law didn't just expose her. They united the rest of us. What started as a terrifying night for my son and me transformed into a wake-up call for every family living under the grip of her so-called authority. Her arrest, the trial, the guilty verdict, and the lifetime ban from all HOA roles sent a message louder than any rule book she ever waved around. No one is untouchable. Our neighborhood finally got to breathe again. Doors felt safer. Kids walked home without looking over their shoulders. And for the first time in years, people smiled at each other without fearing a surprise violation notice. Patricia's chapter ended behind bars, and ours began with peace, the kind she claimed to protect, but never actually gave us. And if you've ever dealt with someone drunk on power, someone who thinks rules only apply to everyone else, then you know exactly how satisfying justice can be. This is Neighbor Wars HQ, where real stories, real chaos, and real consequences collide. If you enjoyed this story and want more wild neighbor showdowns, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video, and subscribe so you never miss the next battle.